G'day everyone, and welcome back to the third episode of Peeling the Onion with DurtyQ. I've got a great show for you today. We're going to look at the fifth generation warfare that's going on today, and I'm going to introduce you to this book here, which is Fifth Generation Warfare by Michael T. Flynn, Lieutenant General, U.S. Army, retired, and it's also co-written by Boone Cutler, Sergeant, U.S. Army, retired. The 5G warfare, it takes a bit of understanding, but it's where we are today. It's like I'm trying to get you guys to understand where the world is today, and get away from your footy games and your lotto, and you sit back and watch the 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, the 4:30 news, right? And understand where the world is today. So here we are, and this book really demonstrates it, and like 5G warfare, it takes tactics such as social engineering and misinformation, cyber attacks, and deletion of history. Right, so there's a big thing. It's a big part of it is deletion of history. We don't want you to know what happened. We want you to know what we think happened. Or we want you to know what we want you to think happened. Okay, and a big part of that is deleting history. There's a big narrative part of that is where they just lay narratives. This is what's happening. This is what's happening, and it all comes down to gaslighting. I'm trying to try my best to explain all that tonight, and give you guys an idea of what fifth generation warfare is. I want to just read you to start off. I just wanted to just read you a part of this book. I've actually got the book. I bought this in 2023, I think, and it lays out the different generations of warfare in one of the chapters. And I just need to get my glasses, and I'll be right back with you. Right, here we go. I've got my glasses, right, ready to go. Chapter 1.5, Generations of Warfare. I wanted to read you just from this book, right? There have been four previously defined generations of warfare dating back to the pre-Napoleonic era, circa 1700s, depending on who you ask. Arguments to the contrary. The important element to know is that with each advancement of technology or tactic also comes the advancement of warfare. For instance, the machine gun changed the nature of killing in World War II, just as the tank changed the nature of maneuver in World War II, and the nuclear bomb changed the nature of warfare forever. However, there is a disagreement on the exact elements of each generation of warfare. For example, number one, first generation warfare is pre-gunpowder. Number two, second generation warfare introduces the aspect of weapons that use gunpowder. Number three, third generation warfare incorporated flying machines, tanks, trench warfare, rockets, and long-range artillery. Fourth generation warfare introduced atomic and nuclear weapons, as well as the concept of state and non-state actors, including terrorists seeking to achieve political goals on a global stage. That's really important. Okay, that fourth generation warfare was what we've just been going through, but we're just finding out about it now. We're just dealing with it now, right? So we're dealing with fourth generation warfare with the non-state actors, but we're actually using fifth generation warfare to fight it. Which brings me to fifth generation warfare. Great segue. Fifth generation warfare evolved when the overlap of hybrid, irregular, and unrestricted warfare became directed at societies to affect their cognitive battle space. Right, so there's battle space in the head. The belief system of civilians and other target audiences that equaled more value than just the geography or ideology of a nation or its leaders. We recognise that these latter aspects have existed in all generations of war throughout human history. However, in fifth generation warfare, they now become the primary strategy and no longer play a supporting role. Okay, then it goes on into the grey zone. I don't know if I can show you that. It goes on into the grey zone and different zones of the fifth generation warfare. Okay, it's a great book, well written. This man was persecuted. General Flynn was persecuted in the United States. He was the man that brought Russia hoax to the fore and actually started. He got a pardon from Donald Trump for his role as he was labelled a traitor. Okay, and basically his story came out, and he's now a hero because he fought against the deep state, and that general is now giving out fifth generation warfare information that we can all draw upon and use in our fights against other countries, right? You notice on the front it's actually got the Australian flag there. Okay? That's because Australia has to go through its own fight, as does the UK, which is also on that cover, as do all the countries around the world. Rightio, so that's fifth generation warfare in a nutshell. I highly encourage you to go get that book. But I wanted to talk about the formation of the internet, because if you think about it, things changed way back in the 80s, and that coincides with the formation of the internet and the increase in information flow. I suppose I should turn my camera on. When we look at the history of the internet, we find that, like I said, it happened in the late 80s. It says the National Science Foundation, NSF, funded national supercomputing centres at several universities in the United States and provided interconnectivity in 1986 with the NSF NET project, thus creating network access to these supercomputer sites for research and academic organisations in the United States. International connections to NSF NET, the emergence of architecture such as the domain name system and the adoption of TCP/IP on existing networks in the United States and around the world marked the beginnings of the internet. Okay, so you're looking at the late 80s. All right, so how does that tie into everything? How does that change everything? We'll get into that. In 1991, what was his name? George Herbert W. Bush, Herbert something, right? He announced the New World Order for the first time, and since then, everything changed for everybody around the world. Let's have a listen.
Mr. President, and Mr. Speaker, and members of the United States Congress, and distinguished guests, fellow Americans, thank you very much for that warm welcome. We gather tonight, witness to events in the Persian Gulf as significant as they are tragic. In the early morning hours of August 2nd, following negotiations and promises by Iraq's dictator, Saddam Hussein, not to use force, a powerful Iraqi army invaded its trusting and much weaker neighbor, Kuwait. Within 3 days, 120,000 Iraqi troops with 850 tanks had poured into Kuwait and moved south to threaten Saudi Arabia. It was then that I decided to act to check that aggression. At this moment, our brave servicemen and women stand watch in that distant desert and on distant seas, side by side with the forces of more than 20 other nations. They are some of the finest men and women of the United States of America, and they're doing one terrific job. These valiant Americans were ready at a moment's notice to leave their spouses and their children to serve on the front line halfway around the world. And they remind us who keeps America strong? They do. And in the trying circumstances of the Gulf, the morale of our servicemen and women is excellent, In the face of danger, they are brave, they're well-trained, and dedicated. A soldier, Private First Class Wade Merritt of Knoxville, Tennessee, now stationed in Saudi Arabia, wrote his parents of his worries, his love of family, and his hope for peace. But Wade also wrote, "I am proud of my country and its firm stance against inhumane aggression. I am proud of my Army and its men. I am proud to serve my country." Well, let me just say, Wade, America is proud of you and is grateful to every soldier, sailor, Marine, and airman serving the cause of peace in the Persian Gulf. I also want to thank the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Powell, the chiefs here tonight, our commander in the Persian Gulf, General Schwarzkopf, and the men and women of the Department of Defense. What a magnificent job you all are doing, and thank you very, very much from the grateful people.
So the world changed that day. From that point on, and that was, what did I say, 1991, 1990. That the world changed that day. That day, the New World Order was born, and he was working towards other people's agendas, other people not in line with America, other people that were aligned with lining pockets, pushing an agenda that wasn't true. I'm not going to say climate agenda, but I'll say climate agenda. They'll push the LGBTQ, or the more so the debauchery that's been going on over these last many, well, I'd say 20 years, right? You've ended up in a position where you've got online sites where you can go and have couple sex, and you can do all that. They're pushing people being gay, pushing people being non-binary, and shun at the same time shun heterosexual. It's just launching into a phase of just upside downness. Really, it's where there is no common sense. And I remember the first time I heard, "Oh, there's no common sense anymore." Well, common sense never went away. We just all started ignoring common sense. And it's about time that we all got back to common sense, much like the US is doing. I like to digress, and I have done again. So, yeah, the internet went mainstream in the 80s. We had George W. Bush pushing a new world order in the 90s. And you can imagine how all over the internet the US would have been, right? So they knew that this information age was coming. They knew to a certain point what the internet was going to do. From that time on, we would be brainwashed to a point where we just wanted to live life, right? We don't want to in politics. It's like we can't change anything. Now we're at a point where we just can't change anything. We just want to just live paycheck to paycheck and just get on with our life and just get through to next week. We don't want to deal with the pesky things of government. And it's like, well, if no one wants to deal with the problems that are at hand, then the problems at hand are just going to be swept under the carpet. And what do they want? They want you to be sweeping the problems under the carpet. Right? So here we are. We're at a point in Australia where the problems that have been swept under the carpet need to be addressed. Okay? I'm going to help you do that. That's what I'm here for. It's, we're going to peel the onion slowly. We're not going to go too fast, and I'm going to try and just show you guys how we got here, where we are, and then how we can actually fight this. And I touched last week upon referendums and that sort of thing. We'll get there. But that's how we fight this, okay? And also, that was one thing. Referendums are one thing, but we've got digging to do as well. All of us have got a bunch of research to do. Those that are inclined need to get on the keyboards, start looking into things, and start following the money, which we'll get to shortly. Okay, let's move on. World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum was founded in 1971, right? Notice these close dates, right? I know that's a bit earlier, but as we go on, just notice the dates around the 80s, right? Where these people would be from, where they're coming from. So they were founded in 1971 by Klaus Schwab. We all know Klaus Schwab. He's just stepped down. What are we? 40 years later, okay? As the European Management Forum. So it was founded as the European Management Forum, devolved into a global platform for connecting business, political, and academic leaders. Initially focused on European business management, it later expanded to address broader global issues, including economic development, globalization. All right, so it took the business level to a globalization thing. So it's like this is the step that took us from just business operating around the world and all working together to, oh no, that's not good enough. We've got to globalize. We've got to get bigger than that. We've got to have one company or one entity run everything around the world. Right? It's a classic guy sitting there with his cat, stroking his cat. I wish I had a pet cat. Died. So it's stroking his cat, and he's sitting there going, "I'm gonna run the world." And as funny as that sounds, it's exactly where we are. Okay. It later expanded to address broader global issues, including economic development, globalization, and conflict resolution. All right, got a non-elected entity has got no business stepping into conflicts between other nations. I'm sorry, but that is for nations that are part of agreements and unions and stuff around the world to deal with conflicts between world states. Okay, nothing to do with WEF, which was founded by Klaus Schwab in 1971. All right, there's nothing to do with. He should not be stepping into any sort of conflict resolution. The WEF changed its name to the World Economic Forum in 1987. There we go, folks. Right. So what happened then in 1987? The internet was evolving. All right. Klaus Schwab saw his chance to use the internet and the information. It's like a explosion in information availability, and he saw the ability to use that to achieve his own goals. I'm not going to go further into Klaus Schwab and the WEF, but you get the point. This is around 1971 to 1987, and then obviously you all know the rest of WEF. You've been living it for the last, I don't know how many years. All right, where are we at? After all this, and we've been pounded by this, we're all at a point where we're just sick of non-representation, and so we'll just give up. Who else plays in this? Rupert Murdoch. Hey, Rupert Murdoch from Wikipedia. I'm going to scroll a bit here. After his father, Keith Murdoch, died in 1952, Murdoch took over the running of the News, a small Adelaide newspaper owned by his father. So he took a really small little newspaper that was being printed on a little, you remember the drum press, all right? And they put that smelly shit in it, and it would print out bits of paper, and a little office that was doing that, all right? 1952, right? In the 1950s and 1960s, Murdoch acquired a number of newspapers in Australia and New Zealand, right? So that was his little foothold in Australia and New Zealand, before expanding to the United Kingdom in 1969, taking over the News of the World. Followed closely by The Sun in 1974. Taking over the News of the World and followed closely by The Sun in 1974. Murdoch moved to New York City to expand in the US market, and we'll talk about that in a minute. All right. However, he retained interest in Australia and the UK in 1981. Murdoch bought the Times, his first British broadsheet, and in 1985 became naturalised US citizen, giving up his Australian citizenship to satisfy the legal requirement for US television network ownership. In 1986, keen to adopt new electronic publishing technologies, Murdoch consolidated his UK printing operations in London, causing bitter industry disputes. Look, I'm just gonna pause there. So that gives you a bit of an insight into how Murdoch started, and he expanded to obviously Australia and New Zealand, and then went to the US. Okay. Now we're going to skip down to where he was in the US. There's Australia and New Zealand. We're going to go down to the US because that's where things get really interesting. United Kingdom, and he's very political as well, right? We're not going to cover that today. Okay. Activities in the United States. Murdoch made his first acquisition in the United States in 1973 when he purchased the San Antonio Express News. In 1974, Murdoch moved to New York City to expand into the US market. However, he retained interest in Australia and Britain. Soon afterwards, he founded Star, a supermarket tabloid, and in I think is that still going, that Star? I think it might be. A supermarket tabloid, and in 1976 he purchased the New York Post. That is still going. On 4th of September 1985, Murdoch became the naturalised citizen to satisfy the legal requirement that only US citizens were permitted to own US television stations. In March 1984, Martin Davis sold Mark Richards' interest in 20th Century Fox to Murdoch for $250 million. This is 1984, okay? Remember what we were talking about before. The internet's just starting to evolve, okay? Murdoch sees the rise in the internet and he sees that he can actually start leveraging this stuff. And he does very, very well, which we'll get to. For $250 million due to Richard's trade deals with Iran, which were sanctioned by the US at the time. Davis later backed out of a deal with Murdoch to purchase John Kluge's Metro Media television stations. Rupert Murdoch bought the station by himself without Martin Davis, and later bought Davis's remaining stake in Fox for $325 million. So he's now spent $775 million on Century Fox. It's good to be the king, right? The 6 television stations owned by Metro Media form the nucleus of Fox Broadcasting Corporation, founded on 9th of October 1986, which later had great success with programs including The Simpsons and The X-Files. And I wanted to just stop it there because, well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Simpsons have been predicting stuff since their inception, really. Or probably a bit later than inception. Just looking at this, it might have been a little bit later. Maybe about 1986. And the X-Files. Well, the X-Files have been putting some stuff out too that with people, some of the anons and stuff have been looking at and going, well, that's kind of weirdly familiar to some stuff we've heard that might be true. Okay, so that's a little bit of another rabbit hole that we're probably going to get to later on down the series. I need to look at that. I'm going to dive into that because that's an interesting connection. Okay, between Murdoch and the Fox, and buying Fox, and then The Simpsons and the X-Files all of a sudden putting out these episodes that are predicting the future. That's interesting. Well, I find it interesting anyway, right? Okay, so Murdoch bought Channel 9. I don't know if you guys all knew this, but he bought Channel 9. Nope, that's not where I wanted to be. He bought Channel 9, and Channel 9 really pushed the fear porn when it comes to COVID. This is an article I pulled up from, where was this? It'll be at the top somewhere, right? 2020, February 27th, 2020. And a Channel 9 article when COVID first happened in Australia, was really freaking out and everything. Okay. Mr. Morrison said there is every indication coronavirus will become a pandemic, and the risk to Australia is very much upon us. Right. So I want to stress, right, that these actions are being taken in abundance of caution, said Morrison. This is Scott Morrison government, yeah. So the plan was triggered to contain the impact of this virus. Right? Together we will get through this. You've got to look at the way these articles are written at the time. Okay, now Nine News was bought by Murdoch's enterprise, and he owns that. And he bought a bunch of radio stations that were also part of his or became part of his media conglomerate, and all of this stuff was pushed out through all of those radio stations. Okay, so when we say that we were like some people will say that the whole pandemic was just a creation of the media. Well, it was. It absolutely was, and Australia is no different. Okay, I'm thinking that maybe now that it might have been an up against China, the whole pandemic, because remember the deaths that they were showing on the park benches of China. Here I am with COVID. Here's where I am with COVID. Right at the very, very start, we were shown video images of people dying in the streets of China and Italy, and there was people on park benches dead. And it was the images came across the Australian screens, all right? They're now saying that, that was fake and it was part of another video, right? But they've scrubbed the video from. You cannot find those people on park benches. Like, they don't just say, it was fake. It was something from somewhere else. They just scrub it from the internet. It was either that China was the target, and that actually happened, and people were actually dying on the benches and stuff, and then China went, okay, yeah, we get this, and we've been attacked, and we're just going to just not talk about it because it makes it worse. Or the whole thing was a setup between China, US, Russia, and they're all not. I mean, because we had, Italy, Italy and China had the images and stuff, right? The nursing, the hospitals, people dying, and so I'm still not really clear whether this whole COVID thing was orchestrated by the US and released on China, and that could have been by the good guys too, by the way, which we won't get into today, but whether that was orchestrated by China or orchestrated by the US on China, or whether this was just an absolute accident in China that got released to the rest of the world. That's something we all need to really dig into in future times. Right, let's have a look going further. I decided to look at, when I was thinking about Corona, and the flu rates, okay, and I went back to look up the flu rates where we lost the flu, right? And the flu disappeared, and I'm like, well, how? Like many thousands of other Western Australians were like, well, where's the flu, man? Like, it just disappeared, and then all of a sudden, COVID rates are going through the roof, but there's no flu, right? And I came across this. Now, this takes a little bit of looking at. This is what we call gaslighting, right? And this is why I've brought this to you. It's because it's all the fifth generation warfare. Remember the fifth generation warfare. This is gaslighting. This is what happens when you go in after the fact and you start changing information. Okay, what do we got? We got 2017. It was a pretty high flu season. 2018 was but down a bit, right? 2019, it's a bit of a flat line, right? 19, and then it finally drips down to 2022. That was just taking one example, but they're all pretty much the same. different legs of the same spider, okay? And they all drop down to here. Well, when you look into this really carefully, and you go down to the bottom here, and it says, during the 2020-21 season, case counts were not sufficient to allow reporting of stratified cumulative rates or weekly rates. So they simply didn't include the data in the 2020-2021 season here, okay? 2020-21. So there's no 18, 19, there's no 20-20-21. So what happens is here is because you've got that absence of data, it doesn't show the actual drop where, I'm sorry, my mouse is not working right now on the screen, but you can see where in 19 to 20, it is, okay, the grey line is at just above, well, just below 40, and then it drops down gradually to 2022 over 2 years, right? No, that's not the case. That actually went from, in 2020, it dropped to the floor, okay? So they're missing a whole set of data, and where it drops there's a whole set of data there, but they're not showing. It actually dropped to the floor and to the right angle at the bottom, and then went along the floor, and then it dropped up to what they did in 2022. Okay, if you understand that. There's a whole lot of data there that doesn't show the big right angle drop. Okay, let's go back down to the bottom here and have another read. Adapted from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, okay? National Centre of Immunisation and Respiratory Diseases, Health, Equity and Flu, March 21, 2024. Access July 8th, 2024, okay? So this has been produced, this was not accurate information at this time, at 2018, 19, 20, 21. This is what they want you to see now. They make it nice and bright, lots of colours, okay? This is what you call rewriting history. And I said to you in the last episode, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see this, it stands out. Like I look for the stuff now. I now go to the bottom of the article and I look for the little small print, okay? And once you take that information in and you relook at the graph, it gives you a whole new perspective. There's certain things they can't lie about. They have to put those little small print in there. This is what peeling the onion is all about. So I just wanted to show you that one. Okay. So that's a form of gaslighting, right? This is more of the same thing. This is a search on cdc.gov, influenza surveillance reports. I think it was weekly, right? And if you look at where I've highlighted there, it says last updated May 2024. Well, what are we looking at there? The information is actually about the stats during the 2017-18 season. All right. Why do they need to update it in 2024? They don't. All right. This is people going in and changing history. They're going in there and just changing these articles or changing these supposed to be statistics that you can rely on. Okay, and they're being changed in the background by people who want to push certain things like Agenda 2030. So we have history being subtly changed so that they can gaslight us on what happened rather than having us remember for ourselves. I mean, you don't trust your idiotic brain, don't trust your own eyes. I mean, we all lived through this, right? But don't trust that. Oh, no, you got it wrong. All right? They're saying, no, you got it wrong. This is what happened. No, some of us are a little bit more wise to that. And that's called gaslighting. They don't want to be, they're trying to cover up actual crimes that happen. I mean, like, this is crimes against humanity, what we're talking about right now. Like, this is crimes against humanity, and they're trying to cover it up. They don't want you to know that they just made up this disease to lock you in your house, all right, charge you a fortune, screw up your whole supply chain, all right? They don't want to admit that. So they're gaslighting you to make you believe that, Oh, no. What you remember didn't happen. So it's all repeated by Murdoch's stations. And like, this is not Murdoch, this is Reuters. False claim. Picture shows people dying of coronavirus in the streets. And this is supposedly, I think, Italy. It doesn't actually say in the art. Oh, like China here and Italy here, but it doesn't say in this article where they're talking about. But they're saying these two articles are false. The China one doesn't pan out. I can probably try that one for you. It just doesn't work, right? But the next one is Italy, which is this one here. Okay, and you remember the pictures we were shown, right? This is what we were shown. I'm old enough to remember that. It's only 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. This is what we were shown, okay? And they've tried to actually just delete this information. It's still around though. You cannot. Nothing on the internet was ever deleted. There's people out there that can find this information, okay? And this is Western Union fake news word of the day. This just shows you how they do it. Okay, I'm going to play this video. This is how they do it. They put out a talking point in the morning, and then all of the news agencies that are affiliated will go and put out that narrative in the morning. This is a narrative.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed.
Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Okay, I want to change gears here. I want to just do a little segment on here. I'm going to call "Follow the Money." It's been proven that the best way to find corruption in a government or with government money, or there's a lot of NGOs and stuff that non-government organisations that receive money from governments, and for whatever grant, it might be saving some silverfish in some remote area, right? And then what happens is that money doesn't ever go to any project; it just gets used in people's bank accounts. Okay, people just take it. So one of the best ways to do that is to follow the money and work out what projects are real and what projects are not. And in America, obviously, they're well into that phase at the moment with their Doge. But I wanted to just show you something. So what happens, I'm going to try and do my best to just give you a little example. So if I use this bit of string, and if we just call this a money line, okay, this is money, the money line, okay? And if we follow it along, we come to one little discrepancy, and you start taking on that. There might be one person that's got some sort of deal going where he's got, something he's got going where he's got money going into his account, and you might find that. Okay. Now, what happens is it's very difficult for one person to do all this by themselves. They need other people to know what they're doing, so that they don't report this or report that, and they all get their little cut. So what happens is you get a bunch of people along the money chain that are in it and they're doing the same thing, all right? They may not know each other, but sometimes they do. And you get all of these people in this money chain, okay? And what happens is once you start pulling on a thread, and you start being nosy and you start asking questions, I'm just tangled up in your money line. All right, so what happens is they'll all start closing ranks. Okay, so you're pulling on. All those people start close ranks, and they all come together, and they ended up being a big bunch like this. Okay. Now that might be done through not answering simple questions. It might be they've got a subpoena and they just refuse to be subpoenaed into Congress. There's ways and means they can really close ranks and end up like this, right? As opposed to what you started with, which was just the one. Okay, you'll find it all close ranks as you pull on one thread. All of those little loops will just close up, and they start protecting each other. Okay, but this is the best way to find corruption is to follow the money. Okay. Now I bring this up because I was looking at the New South Wales flooding, and I thought to myself, well, why aren't they just taking that water and sending it to WA? And why aren't they? They should have a water line across the country where they can manoeuvre water wherever they need to take it and move it from or move it to. If you've got a drought somewhere, send the water there. All right, makes sense to me. So I looked up water pipeline. Was it water pipeline infrastructure? And I got a result that I didn't really expect. Where are we? Oh, I can't find it. Where are we? Oh, yes. The result I got was Australia New Zealand infrastructure pipeline. Okay, and I thought, oh, okay, not just where I find it. But look at it. It's actually the money that's been spent between New Zealand and Australia. They've obviously got this shared agency that is putting out billions. It's 102 billion across 48 candidate projects. Okay, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that Australians and New Zealanders are paying. Now you can go into the projects, okay, and I went through a few of these. But I mean, if you're gonna do, I'm not saying that this is being taken advantage of, but if one was to take advantage of this, you're not going to put that project up on the main screen where people can see it, okay? And it does talk in here about others. When you go to the charts, which I'll just probably do that now. Okay, so when you go into the charts of everything and where the money's going, it breaks it down by state. Okay, and you'll see that this is WA just to start with, and you see the other, and you can't find anywhere where it describes those contracts. In fact, you can't even find what these 22 energy contracts are. Okay, they don't actually show you what they are. To find that, you'd have to like FOIA information. Okay, this is an organisation. If you look at the thread at the top, it's an organisation. It's not government. Okay, which is like an NGO, right? So this is one of the first places I would probably be looking if I was to be trying to follow the money. Then through that, I found this. This is AusAid. Does it sound familiar? Okay, it's a lot like USAID, right? Okay, so this is a government site because this is the money the government gives out around the world. Okay, it's just like what the USAID was doing around the world, but they were leaning on people's elections and having colour revolutions and things like that. Now, I'm going to go down to the 5. They have 5 strategic goals: saving lives, opportunities for all, sustainable economic development, effective governance, and this is one I wanted to cover, and humanitarian and disaster response. Okay. Now, we all saw what they did in Haiti with the USAID. Right, keep that in the back of your mind. Effective governance. Effective governance means having strong systems in place and skilled people to provide accountable and transparent public services ranging from record keeping through to justice systems. We have helped. Okay, interesting word, helped, right? Yeah, maybe they have helped in some ways, but there's probably other ways, in my mind, that maybe weren't so helping so much, maybe helping us more than we helped them. Help Solomon Islands improve its budget processes met its debt obligations and increased revenue collection from 96 million in 2007 to more than 137 million in 2010. So that's an effort to gather more revenue. Okay. Does all that revenue go to that country? I want to know. I mean, they just say that they raised it. Did it all go to that country, or did some of it come back to Australia and New Zealand? Australia. Okay, we trained 2,860 public servants in Papua New Guinea in core public administration competencies such as record keeping, time management, and staff supervision. How much DEI stuff was put into that? I'd like to know that. But here we're just following the money, okay? Supported the 3 national elections in 1999 and 2004 and 2009 and numerous local elections during Indonesia's democratic transition. All about democracy. All right, we're going to push our democracy and we're going to use AusAid to push our democracy. Sounds a lot like what we've just all watched with USAID pushing democracy around the world. All right. So I think this would be a really good place to start in my mind. If one was to go and start pulling at ropes, pulling at the money thread, this would probably be a really good place to start for somebody who's into going down rabbit holes, finding the links and taking those links as far as they can to get to the bottom of it. So if you're into that, this is where you should go. And lastly, just to put the cap on this one, this is a post from KTBH, KTB Honest 1, I guess. And it shows the remittances. This was 2001. Scary to think what the numbers are now. And this is obviously out of a chart of territories worldwide in 2021, and it's in millions of US dollars. Now we look down. This is just about Australia. It's obviously off a worldwide chart, but this is obviously the Australia section. I'd like to know where the chart came from, but this is what we've got to deal with. And it's just a demonstration to you guys anyway. So worldwide, look, remittances sent from Australia, 22 billion. I think that's 1,000 million. So that's 22 billion, 684 million. And received in Australia, 922 million. Okay, so that's a net balance in Australia of remittances received minus remittances sent is negative 21 billion. Okay, look at that. We are sending out $21 billion of our taxpayers' money worldwide to all of these places. China, $3 billion. Why are we giving China $3 billion? And they give us 6 million back. Are you serious? India, nearly $4 billion that we're giving them. They give us 5 million back. Lebanon, 719 million. They give us 0 back. 684 million for Thailand. 2 million back. United Kingdom, 875 million. They give us 200, or at least they give us a little bit back, 235 million back. So there's about 644 million that's going to them. Okay? Look at these balances on the right. That is disgusting. We are paying, just like America was, we're paying for other countries. We're not getting anything back for it. What do we get from China? What do we get from Lebanon? I'd like to know. Okay? What are we getting for this money? So that's just to put a cap on that. I do find that this hasn't really started in Australia. Like, people are just starting to dig at the moment, but it hasn't really taken hold yet. Once people start looking and finding where money's going, it's going to highlight a lot of people in our own government that are not quite on the straight and narrow when it comes to what they're doing in Congress or in other roles. Okay, it might be staffers, it might be, or it could be anybody. Okay, anybody involved in the money thread. So I think we really need to start looking into the money. Okay, so that was Follow the Money. Now, where we first heard Follow the Money was an outfit called Q. I've told you my name is not affiliated with Q at all, but I also said at the same in my first show that I'll probably talk about it. I'm going to show you a video today. It is Q related, and let's just get into it. So the US had help with how they fought things. They had help from this Q. We worked out that Donald Trump is not, actually it says here is Q. No, he's not. He's Q plus. Okay, there are drops that are signed off by Q, and there are drops that are signed off by Q plus. What we do get from Trump is a heck of a lot of posts that point to these boards, and he does things that show us where to look, and he confirms with the followers of this that they're on the right track. Okay, so I just want to show you this video that this person's put out, and it's all it is just showing. Look, I'll let you watch for yourself. Okay.
17%. Anybody in here from 17%? Don't raise your hand if anything was 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So I think I might have been in Washington 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So you had 17 Republicans plus me. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, planning it for 17 years.
You get the idea. But Q is not, like, people look at it and go, oh, you can't, like, it can't be real. Nobody can predict the future, right? But that's not the perspective to take with Q. Q is not about predicting the future. It's about events that happen around the world just happen to fall when the boards are talking about these things. Okay, and a lot of it is actually on the day of the event. Okay, there's so many times that on the event happens, you direct it to the Q boards, and all of a sudden, oh wow, you've got all this written in 2018 about this event. Okay. It's not that they predicted the event. It's that the people who are in power are steering events that way. A lot of people say that this has already happened. Like, a lot of what we see has already happened already. I just find it interesting. It's predicted a lot of stuff. There was okay. Well, the first one that really relates to us is the Five Eyes. Okay, they brought up the Five Eyes in 2000 when the first boards first came out. They were talking about the Five Eyes and their involvement with Hillary Clinton in trying to overthrow Trump's 2016 election. That's high treason, I believe. That's going to come out of the woodwork because you've got Australia working against America. Okay, not only Australia. Five Eyes are France, France, UK, New Zealand, Australia, and America. Okay, and like, I suppose, to give you an idea of what they did, Americans aren't allowed to spy on their own citizens. Okay, their constitution doesn't allow it, but they had this arrangement with Five Eyes where they share intelligence. Okay, so it was all intelligence sharing operation. This whole Five Eyes. So what America did is their intelligence agents went to Australia and had them have meetings in the UK with their agents, okay, and they concocted this whole Russia hoax. Australia didn't get pinned for it. There was an agent involved, okay, but and it was talked about that these guys met in the UK, but what really came back was in America, where the Russia hoax was all laid out to bear, okay, and the man that wrote this book was he was the man that was pinned for it all. He's the one that was targeted and blamed for it all, and it wasn't him. It was Australia, the UK, and America working together with our intelligence companies, agencies. So that's one of the things that Q's really got really showing us. Q predicted that COVID will end at Easter. He predicted that the Lord's Prayer would be changed, and it was, by the Vatican. So there's lots of things that have been predicted, and day to day, more and more things are coming out that it's like, oh wow, we're still hitting deltas, what they call deltas, where where this time 5 years ago this was written, and this is happening now today, 5 years later on the day. We're still getting all those deltas thick and fast. Okay. Now, you might say to, well, DurtyQ, we don't have Q here. We don't have that to help us fight. No, but we do have the lessons of Q. Okay, and we have the lessons of how the Americans picked up on it. In that video you just watched, there was crowds of people around him when he's doing all those air cues, right? There's crowds of people there in bunches wearing Q gear, and he's acknowledging them all. Okay, because they're the people that Michael Flynn would call digital soldiers. Okay, they're the ones that are getting on. They make sure to go to the rallies because they're following the whole story. They see what Trump's doing, and they're putting all the Q gear on and going, yes, we understand. Okay, we have worked it out. We autists, because most of them are autists. They're the ones that really get in and figure out the comms. They figure out all the little tiny little details and picture messaging, video messaging, and they'll just go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. That's probably enough about Q. Look, yeah. So spoiler alert: DJT is DJT Donald Trump is Q+. Okay. If you want to find Q, this is where you find it. This is a Q board. It's at quag.news. Okay, all you do is go to there and you can search the Q board. Right from the very first post, Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 a.m. 8:30 a.m. EST on Monday, the morning of October 30th, 2017. Okay, so they talked about this, and you know what? There's a lot of vagary around this, right? So, talking about Hillary Clinton being arrested October 30th, and this is 2017, right? Well, when you look at the actual event, this was 8 years ago, I believe. 8 years ago at the bottom there. Now, if you go back to the Q board, it was 2017. 8 years ahead is 2005? 4. 2025, okay? Where was I going with that? 8 years ago from today was 2017, okay? It's confusing, I know. So let's look at this. So what I was trying to say was 8 years ago this supposedly happened, all right? And we've all seen pictures and photos of Hillary Clinton since. I know. Let's just give this a watch. Sorry if you can hear the rain. It's absolutely pissing down here. I'll try and edit it out. Anyway, let's give this a watch. It's only 20 seconds long. Pay real close attention to the sound because you're going to hear clinking. Now, if you look in the middle of your screen right now, just in front of the van, you've got Hillary Clinton standing there, and you've got a couple of Secret Service behind her. Let's have a bit of a play of this. No, I don't want to go. No. Hear the ankle bracelets? One more time. Yeah, so that's one of the things that really sort of hooked me onto this Q thing was that when you started looking back at videos and stuff, people were conspiracy theorists were saying that she was getting arrested, right? When you look at the you attach that with what was happening on the Q boards, and it's eerily realistic, should we say? Anyway, So just to wind up, Australia, we're being gaslighted every day. Okay, those who go home and sit down and watch the news on the TV are the most gaslighted. We can try and change that. The best way is just to expose it. If people can't deny it anymore, then they're going to have to turn around and accept it. And it's our job to try and put this in people's faces so much that they just cannot deny it. I'm not saying go get in their faces. I'm saying this is what social media is for. Okay, they need to be scrolling around on their Facebook and see little clips come up of the truth. Okay, and the more they see those little clips come up over and over again, some of them saying the same thing differently, two different sources, 3 different sources helps. We need to start putting information out there on social media so that people cannot deny it. No longer will they be able to turn and go, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, oh, you're a cooker, all right? No, we're not cookers. We just pay attention, we look around and we watch the news from different places than you do, and we generally put more information together to form the story than somebody does that just feed shit off the news, okay? So don't despair. Australia is, like I said, I keep saying, we're 5 years behind America. We've got time to do this. But it's going to require all of us standing up, standing together, shoulder to shoulder, and moving forward. And I'm going to leave you with that, right? So if any of you have the experience, time, intention to go and look into following the money and following just links between people, okay? You can find a lot just by linking people and just following the chain from person to person. You can learn a lot by that. If you've got the time and the skills and the effort to do it, I strongly suggest that you get into it now, because I've only got 5 years to get to being good at it. This is my episode 3, but I reckon in 5 years we'll have this nailed. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me on my show, and I'm sorry, Dan, but I'm going to say it. It's where we go one, we go all. And just peeling the onion with DurtyQ. Good night.